What's up YouTube, Cliff here from the Sunday Drive, and today we're going to show you how to remove the steering wheel and clock spring for my 2012 Camaro. So the reason we're going ahead and removing the clock spring for this video is that this is actually broken. It's bad. If you spin this, and we'll have some sound clips of this in the video, it sounds like popcorn is being made, and that is not a sound you want coming from your clock spring. This has also caused an airbag light to be on my car because the connections run through here, and I believe that this clock spring being bad is causing that airbag light. Interestingly though, the steering wheel controls are still working. Now the reason my clock spring went bad is that I did a motor swap on this car, and in the process of doing that, I had to disconnect the steering column inside the engine bay, and my wheel inside the car spun freely because I wasn't thinking about it. Rookie mistake, I know. But when your clock spring springs freely, bad things happen. So don't ever let this rotate beyond what the steering wheel is supposed to rotate from the factory, or you are going to have to replace it. So we're going to show you how to remove this in today's video. Enjoy. First thing you're going to want to do is rotate your steering wheel into the upside down position. Now it's going to be very difficult to show this next step on camera, but once we have the airbag removed, we'll be able to show you clearly where we're putting the screwdrivers. But at the bottom of your wheel, or the top now that it's rotated in the upside down position, there are two slits at the back. And you are going to stick your screwdrivers into those slits. And basically there's two spring-loaded rods that go up and down inside the wheel, and you are going to release those, and then you'll be able to pull the airbag out. Always make sure to have the battery disconnected from your vehicle before working on your airbag, and it may be a good idea to let the car sit for a few minutes to make sure any power in the system is drained out. You don't want an airbag to deploy in your face. There you go. So on the left side right here, you can see that lever arm that's moving in and out, or the spring-loaded arm. And that is what you have to release on both sides with a screwdriver by inserting it into the back of the wheel. These springs are what you push against so that you can blow your horn. This will allow it to move in and out. But basically there's a notch inside of this, and those spring-loaded clips go inside that notch and prevent this from moving out. Next, we're going to disconnect the airbag. There's an orange clip right here and here that you're going to have to remove. Now, as I said before, make sure your battery is disconnected before you do this. You do not want an airbag to deploy in your face. That will pull out right there. And these are color coded, so you can know that you'll be putting them back in the right spot. Now when you set your airbag off to the side, make sure you store it in the upright position so that if it would accidentally deploy, it wouldn't shoot this out and, you know, destroy something. Now we're going to take a T50 Torx bit and remove the center bolt. And if you don't have this already, buy a cordless impact. It's such a lifesaver. With that bolt removed, you can go ahead and slide off the wheel. Then inside right here on your clock spring are a couple of electrical connections for your steering wheel controls. Disconnect that, and then these middle wires for your airbag will pull straight through. There we go. So that's your steering wheel removed. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the reason I removed this was because my clock spring is broken. If you spin this, you can hear it making all those clicking sounds. Now the reason for this is that you can turn your clock spring too far. Now in normal operations of your vehicle, it's impossible. Your wheel will lock before you can rotate it too far to damage your clock spring. However, I replaced the motor in this vehicle, and to do that, I had to disconnect the steering column inside my engine to access the motor and remove everything. When I did that, I wasn't paying attention, and my wheel spun freely inside the car, and that damaged my clock spring, leaving me with these nice audible popcorn sounds as I rotated around. So right now we're going to go ahead and remove the clock spring, show you guys how to do that. At the bottom of the shroud surrounding your steering column are 3 7mm bolts. One up front, and then there's 2 in the back. And there is a 4th 7mm bolt right here that we just discovered. All right. With those 4 7mm bolts removed, you're going to go ahead and stick a thin trim removal tool in between the top and bottom gaps. Just make sure you do it close to the clock spring so that if you scratch it at all, it'll be covered by your steering wheel. There you go. All right, so I have both of those pulled off enough to access the 4 screws that hold in the clock spring. We're going to take a small Phillips head screwdriver and remove these 4 screws. All right. So right here, you're going to push down on that tab and that connection will release. To remove this yellow clip, you got this red locking pin that you need to remove. I'll just go ahead and press down on the yellow connection and that'll slide out. And now we have one more connection at the bottom. There you go. So I just basically put that in there and then just pulled on this and that released the connection. It appears that there's actually a ribbon running in there. You can kind of see there's a clear window and you can kind of see the ribbon on the inside. Probably not going to get picked up on the camera, but that has clearly gotten overpulled by allowing this clock spring to rotate too much. This is why you don't overturn a clock spring. So one interesting thing about the clock spring in this car was after doing the motor swap, I also had an airbag light on. Now, most likely because the electronics, or at least the wiring for my airbag runs through this clock spring, I am thinking that's the reason for my airbag light. However, the steering wheel control still worked, which was interesting since the wires and connections for both of those run through here. So it's just something interesting to note. If you do have an airbag light on, you can't figure it out, it's possible your clock spring is bad. But word to the wise, don't let your wheel ever rotate freely and turn beyond where it's supposed to, or you're gonna have a bad clock spring. So yeah, that's it, how you remove it, guys. So that's it, guys. That is how you remove the clock spring and steering wheel from your 5th gen Camaro, specifically the 2012 through 2015 model years. Now, the clock spring removal may be the same on the 2010 and 2011 Camaros. However, the steering wheel removal itself is different. They use a different wheel during those first 2 years of the car. If you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Thank you guys for watching. A lot more content coming out on my 5th gen Camaro, including a full engine swap. So that was fun, but we did videotape it, so hopefully the edit turns out well and we can get that out to you guys. Hope to see you guys here next time. See you around.